Welcome to Build to Last, the podcast where I, Eric of Maykus Homes Neighborhoods, dive into the art of crafting not just homes, but entire neighborhoods and lasting relationships. Join me as we explore the heart and soul of building communities that stand the test of time. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm thrilled to be sitting down with Eason Maykus, president of Maykus Homes Neighborhoods, and Sierra Maykus Dornak, realtor and leader of the sales team for Maykus Homes Neighborhoods. And we're going to get right into our show today and talk about the key roles that they play and what they do out on the job. Eason, let's get started with you. Is it just you and Sierra from a family standpoint that are involved in the family business?
No, Maykus Homes and Neighborhoods consist, I like to tell everybody, our whole team is family. You know, we've had a lot of tenured people that represent Maykus Homes and Neighborhoods. But at the same time, Sierra and I have been working together. I've been very lucky to work with her for approximately 4 or 5 years now. Prior to that, I got to work with my father, my dad, Kos Maykus, for 15 years. And then also at one point, it was my grandpa, Frank Maykus, Kos Maykus, and me. So we had 3 generations in the office. Also, Jan Maykus, my mom, is involved on the design side. And then my wife, Lacey, has had multiple roles over the years. Right now, being mom of 3 is the priority, but she also has been a permit tech and then leads up the design interface with architects on the front end with the design of the elevations and the exterior of houses. So all in all, there are 5 or 6 Maykuses that have been involved, but right now it's Sierra, my mom, Jan Maykus, and then Lacey Maykus and myself. So 4 Maykuses in the office, and then 12 team members total.
Wow, that's great. Well, Sierra, he mentioned grandpa. So timeline-wise, how long really has Maykus been around?
So since the 50s, when my grandfather started the business, I know Eason can go into a lot more detail of the stories. I wish I would have asked more questions back in the day because I don't know as much as I should. But in the 50s, and then at one point, my father took over and then transitioned to Eason. So it's been a really long time, way before both of us were here.
Well, Eason, she kind of pointed the finger at you of being the family historian.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that early go. Is there some significant milestones maybe that you'd like to mention in the family business?
Sure. I think it's a pretty cool story all around. My grandpa's family was immigrants from Czechoslovakia, Ellis Island. They came here. My grandpa his family was very poor. They worked on a sharecropping farm in East Texas. He was a larger boy, so he was able to be asked to play football after his chores were done, obviously. So he played football, and he was noticed by Midwestern State University in Wichita Falls, who no longer has a football program, but that's how Frank Maykus got a continuing education and a college degree. So he got that, moved back to Irving, Texas in the 50s, met my grandmother actually in college, Joanne Maykus, who at one point also played a role in the family business as well. Then my dad went to Texas Tech University in West Texas in Lubbock, and in the late 70s he graduated. Him and my grandpa actually had a falling out because my grandpa wanted him to be an attorney. His degree was accounting, and then instead of going to law school, he expressed to my grandpa, Frank, that he wanted to be a home builder. Well, that caused a huge family rift because all the rich people in town were attorneys. And so my dad and him, I don't think, spoke for a minute. And then once I think it came to fruition and realization that, you know, being a home builder and or a residential land developer was kind of what his path was going to hold, things changed. My dad started out with fixing up duplexes, had storage buildings, a lot of things that kind of diversified what he what taught him the building business. Then he started building houses, and then he developed some property in Irving, Texas, which we still get to this day. People that bring in window stools and aprons that are signed by my dad, or cabinets after a remodel that somebody from the Maykus family had signed, or the cabinet man had written, Maykus Custom Homes. And then in the mid 80s, things were really, really bad. The banking industry is bad. Savings and loan happened, and my dad started, it was slow. So he said he would have driven to Oklahoma or Waco for a build job. So he had a family that he built a house for in Southlake. So he was driving from Irving to Southlake, admired the beauty, the location, admired the school system of Southlake Carroll ISD. And he started forging a path out to Southlake in the late 80s and early 90s. And then if anybody's familiar with Dallas-Fort Worth, the airport came in the 60s, this area just inevitably was going to blow up. So he planted his flag in Southlake, which was, I think, some wisdom on his part. And obviously everything has some luck involved in it as well. And then Southlake has expanded, grown, and is kind of one of the preeminent cities in Northeast Tarrant County. And actually all of the cities in Northeast Tarrant County are very desirable to build, live in, raise families in. And so that's how we ended up in Southlake. And about 10 years ago, we moved our office to Grapevine, which is borders Southlake. And we are here today still working, and very blessed and lucky to be in Dallas-Fort Worth in the state of Texas.
Well, that's an awesome story, Eason. You talked about the office being moved here to Southlake. So did Grandpa back in the day have an office and a model home and a full staff like you have now, or has the business side of it changed some since then?
Great question. When I grew up, we lived off 2604 North Carroll, which was 3 houses down from what was the Dragon football stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad bought an acre of land. It was on septic, and he bought it 18 months to 2 years before he even started construction on it. I think he bought that acre of land for $25,000 to $30,000 in the early 90s.
93.
93.
I was a baby.
Yes. And so our office, or my mom and dad's office, was actually a garage that was converted to some like Berber carpet. And we had desks, and then we had a little loft that was just a converted attic space. That was my dad's office. And that's where it started. And then it turned into a double wide trailer that was on a piece of property that he developed. And then it turned into kind of an obscure office complex that was in a residential area at Dove and Carroll. There's a dentist there now that people from this area might be familiar with. And then over time, we've moved many times. We've officed out of garages and model homes. And now we're really proud of our office space in Grapevine. It's about 1,600 square feet. We could use a little bit more. So, but we're really proud to be here. But no, it did not start out with 12 Maykus Home and Neighborhood employees. It started out with my mom and dad, with my grandpa and my grandma helping out in forms and fashions until, everybody's kind of retired or moved on. And so, we're here now, and I would love to have anybody that would watch this podcast stop in any time, which is a way we've sold actually a couple houses, being kind of in a pedestrian area and by a donut shop. So
great. So when I thought about this next question a little bit, I'm someone who raised 2 children and owned and ran a family business. I would never ask my children this question, but I'm going to ask you guys, and I'll start with you, Sierra. What was it like growing up being the daughter of a builder? Did you see this as your future, or?
Wow, no, that's a really good question. I learned a lot without even knowing you're learning. I was in the car a lot with my dad going to basketball. Spent a lot of time together, a lot of one-on-one time together. Often, more, like 9 times out of 10, he was on the phone, or his phone was ringing. And so we didn't get to talk much in the car, but that's okay because I think I naturally heard a lot of things and conversations, good, bad. And so that's really cool, because back then you don't realize what you're listening to and that you're learning, but you look back and those were really special moments. And then did I see myself doing this? I don't really know. I don't think so. No, I don't really. When I was little, I wasn't that person who like knew what I wanted to do, or, I always wanted to be this or that. I started out being a school teacher for 3 years, a basketball coach in Coppell. In 2020, COVID happened, and never went back to school. After spring break, the world shut down. And so I think I was looking for something new. The hours were really long. It was just, it was hard. I didn't have much of a life. And so outside of work, and I slowly started helping my mom. Didn't really know where I would fit in, what I would do. And I think I just organically kind of did what I do now. And there was a lady that worked with us and kind of took me under her wing, and I'm really grateful for that. And because now I'm here, and I can't believe 4 to 5 years have already flown by.
Wow, that's great. Great story, Sierra.
Yes.
How about you, Eason? Was there a little Eason running around with a tiny tool belt around his waist, like sawing the legs off the furniture, saying, one day I'm going to be president of Maykus Homes and Neighborhoods?
I did love Legos, and I did have an erector set with the little battery-powered drill. I've always liked working with my hands. I didn't get into any sort of trade. I've always respected carpenters and welders and any sort of trade, even plumbing, electric, and all that. But no, similar to Sierra, I went to Texas Tech. I had changed degrees early on. I ended up getting a marketing business degree from Tech. When I graduated, it was in the depths of the recession. So I graduated in 2008, and there was not many job opportunities. A lot of people were getting hired to work at car dealerships and things like that. So unless you had a law degree or you were in accounting and had an accounting degree, there just wasn't a lot of offerings. So I expressed to my dad probably at the end of my junior year that if there was opportunity, that would be great. And I do know internally within my family, there was some discussions that I wasn't part of, but hey, it might be good for him to go work for another home builder. But as everybody knows, there probably weren't many options. But through the Builders Association and through my dad, I could have gone and learned. My dad told my mom something that I thought was really interesting, that small family businesses or small building companies are few and far between. So we are very blessed and very lucky to have that opportunity. And my dad said, look, if he's going to learn the business, I would like to teach him the way we do things and the way that we have done things and the history of our building business. And so I always remember him commenting on that. And I loved that. Early on, which things go full circle, there's actually some people we're meeting today that is the second generation of one of the first houses that I built. And it was a struggle. It was really difficult. And I did not know at the end of that house if this is something that I would stick with. And then my dad had some lot positions in Keller, Texas, and we started building through the lot inventory that he had at cost to just get through the times that we were in. I lived with my parents for over 4 years, and it was great times. And it was wonderful times to work too. I did not know. I had a feeling how bad things were, but I did not know how bad they were. So that was kind of my story. Was unlike COVID, but the recession and especially the real estate bubble absolutely killed our business. And my dad was one of the few that survived that. And then to hire on his son, he took a big risk at a time where nobody was hiring, and I wasn't making hardly any money. But for him to offer that to me is something I'll never forget, and I take great pride in that. And it's been great to learn it. Whereas if I was to go learn from a production builder who I immensely respect, those companies, there's a lot of segmentation and departments where when I got to learn in our business, I got to see the full gamut. I got to see everything under the umbrella. I got to see the finances. I got to see the construction. I got to see the land acquisition. I got to see the entitlement phases. I got to see the sales processes. I got to see it all. And that didn't really meld together for many, many years because it was information overload. I got to meet a lot of the bankers that were very good to our family, and my dad had formed relationships over the years. So long answer, but that's really how I got my start. And the first 10 years I was out in the field building houses. So on the vertical construction, I really loved working with my hands. I really loved being in the field with the tradespeople. I really loved seeing how things were put together in a quality fashion. And then it turned into a moment in time where my dad would tell me this, and it was hard to disconnect. It was actually, I think, a 2 to 3 year process. He said, if you want to advance, you may need to get an elevated view of our business. And that's hard. I feel like I'm type A in a lot of scenarios in life. And so backing off from that hands-on deal and hiring and having wonderful people like yourself, Eric, and the staff that we have has been tremendously helpful for me over that initial decade of working. From the past 6 years, being able to kind of slowly disconnect and kind of evolve into more of a management role of our company, which is totally different than what I was doing, but I love it just as much. It's just a different role.
Well, this is really great. So you guys start off sitting on Daddy's knee, getting the building trade by osmosis while he's on the phone and whatnot going through. You diverged different paths, different educations, and now we're back together at Maykus Homes and Neighborhoods. So either one of you can weigh in on this. What exchange of information from Sierra to Eason, or for Eason back to Sierra? How do you guys really play off each other to come up with a successful product or sale for a home?
Well, I'd be honest, I just call Eason and try to get a hold of him, which is hard to do. No, but I don't know. I think we're still learning that too. That's I think something that's ever changing, ever evolving. I know 4 years, to me, 4 years seems like a long time, but I'm still learning a lot. There's so much I don't know, and sometimes that's really intimidating. But I think we talk often. We need to be better about it. But yeah, we talk often, and I think that's, but really it's not even just Eason and I. Like, he was kind of weighing in on the 12 people we do have. It's a team effort. And me and Eason are not the final decision makers in anything. I think what's really wonderful about what we have at Maykus Homes is the teamwork and all of the minds being put together. And it's not just me and Eason, it's everybody. And we all listen to each other and respect people's opinions and just bounce ideas off of everybody.
Right. Excellent. Well, one thing that I knew even before I was a part of Maykus, just being in the building industry, was the outstanding reputation that Maykus Homes has, and Maykus Neighborhoods as well. We know that reputations don't just happen by accident. They're built. Just like a home is built, it takes some key components to build a good reputation. Eason, what would you think are some of the key components that goes into the reputation that Maykus Homes has built over the years?
Well, I'm going to piggyback a little bit off the sales process, which I think it will answer your question too. Mm-hmm. Our sales type or our sales way is, I believe, very disarming. Humanizing ourselves to potential clients. And that could be young folks that really don't know how to navigate the waters of buying a new home. Okay. I've been there personally, even though this is our business, buying a new home with my wife, our first one, and even subsequent homes after that. It's stressful. We know, so we appreciate that because we've been through the processes ourselves. So on the sales side and on the reputation side, humanizing yourself is a huge part of that. Something that we've tried to do better, and this started before my dad passed on, was he always instilled in giving back to your industry, giving back to the community that you're part of. And that's something that accost Maykus from Irving, Texas, moving out to Northeast Tarrant County in the early 90s with farmers and ranchers and more of a rural community. And who was this guy from urban Irving coming out here trying to develop and things? And people had already established relationships and reputations then. And so I always look back at the struggle that my dad never complained about and the good fight that he did. And what he did was get involved in schools, Chamber of Commerce, our building industry, and networking that way. So they could see that this big burly guy from the city of Irving that was coming out here to raise his family is no different than us. And so from a reputation standpoint, if somebody is to come walk through our front door or reach out, it's about being kind. It's about helping them build something that will provide value for their family, whether they're empty nesters in the later stages of the home buying process or the early stages of raising a family. That to me is something that people come through our doors or we discuss over the phone, and we're regular folks as well. And so just humanizing it, getting out, talking, which is a big part of our work, is getting Maykus Homes and Neighborhood, our name out there, because we're not competing against other 12-person building companies. We're competing against larger companies that sometimes may be able to offer things that we can't. So we have to get creative, and talking through that in an honest way with people, I think, is how our reputation has been built, among other things as well. And then I hope will continue to be built in a positive manner for the next many decades. So
great. Sierra, do you think that the Maykus legacy of quality commitment and neighborhood and community involvement, does that play a role or help you when you're meeting the customers in the homes or out in the field?
Absolutely. I was going to say something too, just a little tidbit. When people, I often get, whether it's emails or even phone calls that say, I don't know much about Maykus, but I heard you guys have a wonderful reputation. I don't know if people know how much that means, because what that tells me is that was my dad. Like that's not anything that more than likely that we've done. And that means a lot. And so I think, I can't even imagine, everything that had to happen to get someone to say those things. I mean, that's 20, 30, 40 years of really hard work to get that compliment. And that means more than people know, because I credit that all to my dad. So I wanted to say that. But tell me your question again.
No, that was actually an excellent answer. It really was.
I wanted to piggyback on what he said, because I'm like, it means so much when people say that, and really, I get that a lot.
It is. And the fact that you're mentioning what that means to you, that means that you're not just in it for the bottom line.
Yeah.
And that's very key. We talked a little bit earlier, Eason, about how the business end had changed from, Frank riding around in a pickup with a notepad to 12 people in an office. What about building technology? Have you seen much change in the way the homes are built today from probably when Frank was building them?
Yeah, there's something that's been floating around on social media, right? And it's a picture of a stud that is, a true 2x4 back in the day. And it's talking about, oh, why would you spend money on a new house? Things were built so much better back in the day. That is one component of a house. And I would match up this new growth lumber and the overall prescriptive method of way houses are built nowadays to those old studs. Yes, would it be great to be able to harvest this old growth timber and build houses out of it today? But obviously the United States is growing exponentially, as is the entire world, the state of Texas, then DFW. So I always want to comment on that, but I never want to be combative or, and I told you so type of person. But my dad was one of the first people that started to fully encapsulate houses over 20 years ago. And talking about the family business, I know that really caused conflict between my grandpa and him, because it was a new way of building, right? And even to this day, all houses that you see new construction wise are not fully encapsulated. But between the framing techniques, between the advancements of our trades, from continuing education through the even the education that we have with our trades and vendors, like that you do on site, the windows, the energy efficiencies, the safety, the longevity, the timelessness. I like to say this too in the sales process, not to keep going back to the sales side, but this is wholeheartedly the truth. The homes that we're building, obviously we want to have the reputation that is good enough to build them a second home, a family, potentially a second home, or a family member of that family, the second generation home. But I, a lot of times, tell people that even our product that may be our homes that we're building that are our most affordable product, which is a very nice home, is a generationally built home. It's a generationally built house. And so it's something that can be handed down through a parent to a son or a daughter, or to a grandchild, or to a niece or to a nephew. And I think we could do a whole podcast on building science and construction techniques, which we got to do that, by the way. But
Noted.
I would live in a house that is built today at the premium of the pricing that it is, with, time also becomes the expense of building something new, which is a huge undertaking for a home buyer or a client. I would take a home that we built today, even over a home that was built a decade ago, 100 out of 100 times. And so it's just like in anything, whether it's politics or anything on social media, it's really easy to take out one snippet of a house and say that piece is better than the other piece. Mm-hmm. We're not building a widget. Our industry is always advancing, just like technology, just like every industry is. Just because the construction industry or home building industry is looked at as kind of a blue collar thing, there are absolute genius folks in our industry and scientists that back a lot of the ways that we're building houses today. So I know that was a very long answer, but our homes are built very differently and built to last.
Yeah.
Built to last.
There you
go. Good catch, Sarah. Sarah, do you find that the homeowners in the marketplace today are more educated than perhaps in the past? Do they know what foam encapsulation is? Are these things that these new technologies and standards that Maykus are using that matter to people?
I'd say yes and no. I think you touched on social media a little bit, but there's so much information at our fingertips now. And so you can find out anything on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. And I think maybe the younger generation is more familiar with these things because of social media. And then maybe the older generation is familiar with them because they've had them in previous houses. And so we had, for example, we had a young first-time home buyer that bought in one of our communities right now. And he walked in and said, "Oh my gosh, I see how you're building all the other houses, and y'all build really well. What you use, your materials, I'm very familiar with them." And I was like, "Are you in the building industry?" And he said, "No, he just, I guess is for fun, loves to watch building videos." And I think you even know the guy that, there's some guy y'all watch on YouTube. But yeah, he's just a younger guy that is very interested in building. And so that's rare. There's not many people that are like that. But I'd say yes and no. You got people who have no idea what foam is. They may not even care, but they're really interested once you do tell them about it, and they like it. And then you do have your people that are, it's their fifth house that they've bought with foam, and they wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, that's great. Eason, if I had to ask you recently, and I'm sure you could probably come up with a laundry list, but in the building industry, big challenge. What's a recent big challenge that you've faced or you see in our industry?
Affordability. Affordability to me is something that in our small microcosm of the United States, Texas, and then DFW, then Northeast Tarrant County, it's something that we try to combat with that value play. And that is not just lip service. I always like to tell people, if you do not buy a house from Maykus Homes and Neighborhoods, get in my truck, let me drive you around. let me show you what the projects that we have to offer outside of just the home. There's so much more that goes into it, from the identification of that parcel of land that is typically 3 years prior to them actually living in it. But I think affordability overall is one of the largest challenges. And we try to balance that day in, day out with our building specs, our plans, our offerings. That is something that we combat. And unless you're going to go and live an hour outside of the Metroplex, which a lot of people are deciding to do that, and one day I fully intend on being in that exterior circle of the Metroplex, which our kiddos will say, oh my gosh, that's the city now. But we try to provide great locations, great houses, great neighborhoods that are still within the amenities that the cities in Tarrant County have to offer. But to me, affordability is the answer to that question. And I can think of a laundry list, but affordability over and above everything to me is the biggest challenge.
Well, thank you. It's quite obvious that you both cared greatly about the legacy that was passed down to you, that you've built on, and that you plan on continuing to build on. What can our listeners do to find out more about Maykus Homes and Neighborhoods?
So you can visit our website, www.maykus.com, or our sales phone number, which is 817-308-1155. And myself or Chandler will be more than happy to talk to you and tell you about what we have. And what we have quite a bit of homes going up, and homes that are going to be ready within the next year, within the next 2 years. So we have a lot, in the future. So yeah, you can just give us a call.
Well, that's great. Well, Eason, Sierra, we certainly appreciate you joining us here on the podcast today. And we look forward to seeing Maykus grow and to see all the new projects coming up. And we'll stay connected in Instagram and Facebook and follow through on all of that. Well, we appreciate everyone listening and joining us today, and look forward to seeing y'all next time.